Hello, Opening Pathways viewers. It's Tom Lenoble, and I have another guest for you today. Today we have Chris Carter, who is the chairman and CEO of Approyo, and he is going to tell us about that in just a moment. Chris, welcome to Opening Pathways.
Tom, thank you for having me. It's truly an honor.
I'm thrilled you're here. So, what I want to know is what sparked your idea to start your company, but first tell us just a little bit about it.
Sure. So, Approyo is an organization that I founded after being retired, and I fell back in love with SAP all over again. And we provide services to organizations running SAP that provide cloud AI services. And to me, it's a labor of love because I truly get to help companies and people with the knowledge that I've learned over almost 40 years in the ecosystem. And for me, that's my true gift is I get to help people. I listen to their problems, and then I get to spew out answers. And sometimes those answers are right, and sometimes they're not as well liked, but they're always honest and truthful.
Good, good. We're going to learn more about Chris as this podcast goes on too. There's more to Chris than just this company. I'm curious, Chris, when you look back and look at yourself today, what's fundamentally changed about Chris in the last few years?
First of all, I have no hair anymore. I've pulled it all out. My wife jokes at me about that one, so do my daughters. What has really changed is, to be honest, when I first got out of college, got my degree, and I started working in technology, because I've been a technologist since the 1980s, I was looking at it in a different scope. Maybe I had rose-colored glasses on, but I thought I was going to be one thing, and I completely moved over to a different. I was playing with computer games, and I was building different codes with the different technologies back in the 1980s and 90s. And then I got involved with SAP my second year in college, and my whole brain just went enterprise. And I started working with enterprise. And so even you look now, 4 and 5 years behind me, everybody started talking about AI, and cloud. Well, we were doing machine learning back in the day. That's what AI really is, with a fun little wrapper. And I started taking that. And so now I've all of a sudden changed from this side, and now I've gone up there to the cloud and AI. And I spend most of my time trying to help organizations, and mostly humans, trying to understand, to become bigger, better, faster, stronger humans for this AI revolution, and to help them understand they're not being replaced, they're being strengthened. They're gaining power, and they're gaining the ability to support and help themselves first and foremost. So really, my brain and my life has changed drastically in these 35 years, and now really in the last 5 years.
Yeah, amazing. I have lots of thoughts about AI. I think that I've been around long enough that I've seen enough technology to know this is the latest one, and all those others from, I remember watching the first fax and people going, we're going to lose our jobs. Then we put computers on people's table, we're going to lose our jobs. Email, now we just want to get rid of email. And the internet was, of course, going to put us all in our graves. So, but AI is here. I think people who don't embrace it are going to get certainly left behind if they plan to engage in the future. I know there's a side of it that interests me that I want to know more about, because a lot of the agents that can work on their own and can even come together and plan things on their own, and the background that we don't know about, I think there's some room there for us to look under that. But I had somebody share here that they even thought that just like those other technologies that provide a lot more information faster creates opportunity, although some people may shift. I think there's lots of opportunity ahead if you're willing to embrace it. So I'm curious, who were the role models in your early life? I find that people had somebody that influenced who they are today, and that had something to do with who they've become. Who is that for Chris?
So I have a gentleman that I was very fortunate. I got to meet my junior year in college. I was a golf caddy. I was a caddy master, and I got to meet Billy Payne. Mr. Payne uh, ran companies in Georgia. He was also the chairman of Augusta National for the Masters, and he was the vibrant force behind bringing the Olympics to Atlanta, Georgia. So when I was in school there, we got the Olympics, and I got the chance to see him every day and meet with him every day and have activities. And he was one of those people where, as a young man, I was 22 when I graduated college, and to watch him as an executive, as a man, and as a human treating people. Now, take my technology side away, and I love my technology, but when you treat people with the kindness and generosity of everybody is equal, it's a great thing. And I try to extend that to my daughters, and I feel that my wife and I have done that. I try to teach others, especially young people that come into our company. Mr. Payne is the consummate human being, cares about people, wants to help people. And you can do that in work environments. You can do that in personal environments, day to day, week to week, month to month. And that was the individual that I really saw that triggered and changed my mindset from, I always got to look out for the dollar bill. I got to gain money. But no, it was about helping and being a part of humanity and guiding through humanity. And my wife and I, and myself personally, I try to do that with my activities day to day and what I do. And sometimes I fail, but you know what? God's got a mission for me, and I move that forward each and every day.
I love this, Chris. It's I couldn't agree with you more. I think we're all here doing the best we can, and to remember that we all define our own success. And for some people, it may not look like others. That doesn't make them less of a human or less of someone that's contributing to part of our society. Tell me this, what personal values have guided you from the very start? And maybe which one of those has deepened over the past year or so?
You know, that's a great question, Tom, because myself, everything starts with God. I thank him for waking me up every morning, giving me the great wife that I have, children, career, and life. And from that activity, that really changed when I was in college. Actually, 2 years after college. In college, I didn't think much about going to church, God, all that fun stuff. And it's not a religious activity. It's a foundation. Literally, if you start there and you start growing everything else above and beyond it, it's great. I stepped away a little bit. My grandfather, my grandmother, my aunt, and my cousin were all killed in a car accident coming home from my parents' house 2 years after college and after activities. And I decided to come back home and be a part of the family.
Wow.
And I think family and faith and activities, those are what mold people. When you look at society in general, when people don't have a strong family foundation, things tend to go awry, and you look for care or love from other areas. I try to mentor young men and young women in my company who come in. We get together and we have a monthly, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation. You can talk about personal, you can talk about business, you can talk about whatever you want. If you want to do a one-on-one with me and you have some pains and activities, or you want to find some growth activities, let's have a conversation. And I think for me, at least, faith and family start there. And now that my daughters are older, you talk about what's gone on in the last year. Both of my daughters have graduated college, and it's my wife and I only at home. So it's a different vibe around the house. It's interesting because I'm the one that would travel all the time, and she'll be home with the kids. Now we travel together, or now we do things more and more together. And I'm trying to be that husband figure more and more together. And then from a business standpoint, I try to embrace and bring in more and more of the staff. I'm constantly on Teams, I'm constantly on Zoom, I'm constantly on airplanes to go see them, because I really believe our company is a family orientated. I really put my emotions on my sleeve with them. So that's really grown up a lot in this last year without the kids around.
Love this. I always like to say, be grateful for this day, because we got up. Some people didn't.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Tell me about a risky decision that paid off, and what gave you the courage to act on it.
Probably the riskiest one was to come back into the SAP ecosystem. The riskiest failure I had was actually 2 years earlier, where a company literally took away 65% of our contracts with them and said we're going offshore. And when Siemens did that, we literally had to shut down that company, and I was devastated. I had to let go of almost all of my staff. I let them be. I went off and I went to go work for an organization just doing sales. And I say just doing sales, but I was doing their sales. And 2 years later, a really good friend of mine who was the vice president of sales at SAP brought a bottle of scotch over. We sat outside at a fire pit and said, look, you need to come back into this ecosystem. We need you. We need what you bring. We need your passion. And by the time that bottle was gone at about 2 o'clock in the morning, I had already decided I'm going to start a new company. I need to get to Waldorf, Germany and have a conversation with folks. I set up airline flights. I set up hotels. I flew to Germany 2 days later. Then 5 days later, I flew to Palo Alto, California, and met with the North America Labs team. And all that within the course of literally 10 days, we became one of the first SAP Startup Focus Program partners. And that really changed the dynamic of where I was at mentally, and how I was going to be as a business. And I decided I'm back in the business again. Back in the business of SAP.
Amazing story. I love this. I love this. So tell me, how does Chris decide when to pivot or push through?
Ooh, that's a great question, Tom. So I've pivoted a lot in my life. I've pivoted from in relationships with friends and families. I've pivoted in regards to relationships with humans, pivoting to come home when my grandparents and aunt and cousin were killed. I pivoted in those activities. And I even pivoted when that company, Siemens, everybody knows it's Siemens, canceled their contracts with us. But pushing through is a different animal. Pushing through is a day-to-day activity when you've got activities that are hanging up or things in my life that are, I need to push through. I've got I know I'm in a hotel in Vegas because I've been doing events. I'm meeting with from some VCs and PEs, and I did an SAP event. So I don't have it on my wall behind me, but I have the Rocky Balboa quote about getting up and moving forward. Your life is going to hit you hard, and nothing's going to hit harder than life. You've got to get up and keep pushing through. So I feel that every day you're going to push through different pieces of, be it if you're going to move your company forward, if you're going to sell your company, if you're going to have to do things with staff members. And it really designs and changes the way that your organizational structure, your personal structure, your lifeline are going to be. And so there's a lot of different ways of pivoting and pushing through.
Yeah, resilience for sure, right?
That's
Which I define as not just getting back up, but how did you grow from it? How did you reinvent from that setback or that what we perceive as a fall down? So tell me this, Chris, I have learned in my career and life that some of my biggest mistakes led to some of my biggest successes. Did you have a mistake that turned into a success?
I did. My biggest mistake was that I did not hire people fast enough to join my firm, and I was losing contracts. I was making customers unhappy. And this is when I was a younger man, I'd say probably 25 years ago. And I didn't realize that I needed these people. Well, I actually had a conversation with Mr. Payne, and he said, you need people to do the things that you don't do well. I am not a finance HR person. So I brought on somebody that took care of the finance and HR. And holy cow, I got 20 hours plus a week back to focus on other activities. I don't do other things very well. Marketing, I love promotion and marketing and stuff with that, but I needed somebody to take on that responsibility. I brought in a COO, I brought in a CIO, and I brought in a CFO. And once I did that, oh my goodness gracious, it was like the clouds parted, sunshine came down, and I had so much time to work in the company instead of on the company. And it was just
Amazing.
wonderful. And it was just wonderful.
I love this working in versus on idea about the company and how so many of us get so involved in day to day that are leading that we don't have time to see this bigger picture and how we can influence. And it's like really a key to people's next step, I think, in leadership sometimes is that willingness to do that. And we do it for a variety of reasons, from control to we just think we can do it better, right? How does Chris recognize when fear is information and not a stop sign?
Ooh, when it's fear so I do get fearful once in a while, but not very often. And I look at it as this. There's something in my path that has been put there for a reason. I'm either going to learn from it or I'm going to fall apart about it. And I don't like to fall apart. I feel like I'm a very strong human being, mentally, physically, even after my neck surgeries. I still want to move forward. And so I fear my wife. But outside of that, um, I always believe in moving forward. I always take that Rocky sign again, and you're going to get up. If something's in my way, I'm going to try to move forward. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to understand why it's in front of me. I got sued one time out of the blue, and I had no idea why. And I looked at him like, "Oh my God, I've never been sued. What is going on? How I?" And so I took it to and they're like, "What?" So they literally had a conversation. I had a conversation, and it was something that was so minuscule that was out there from like 5 or 6 years earlier that I had no do. And so that was fearful, but I learned from it and I knew that I was going to learn from it. I knew I was going to move forward from it. And I made that learning decision from it to be able to make sure you learn from it.
Yeah. You know what I've learned that fear is? I've learned that fear is an opportunity for growth.
For learning and growth, yes.
Yeah. Now, if a bear is chasing me, I don't know that I'm going to stop and let me think how I can grow from this. But some of the fears that we experience are really just an opportunity to find a way to go. Tell me this: what impact are you most proud of? Not professionally, not publicly, but personally.
Uh, Personally, I'm very proud of the impact that I've had on my daughters and some of my nieces and nephews. It's funny, we have this great family vibe. People come and talk to us. I've got a nephew that has started a company and sold a company, been very fortunate, and he's taken my advice. I've got younger people in our niece, nephew, cousin realm that I've been able to offer them advice on colleges and life, how to grow financially, how to save financially, how to benefit from the world out there, as well as to let them know about, just as you and I talked about, there are going to be impediments to your journey. There's going to be potholes. There's going to be walls. Do you go through the wall? Do you go over the wall? Do you go around the wall? How are you going to be best at moving forward? And as a matter of fact, I was just in Nashville 2 weekends ago, and I met up with some friends, and their son just graduated from college. Great kid, but he didn't do any internships during college. He doesn't have a position yet. He's still trying to learn. And so I gave him some advice on getting out there and learning as much AI right now as you possibly can, because you need to be bigger, better, faster, stronger. And so for me, it's helping this next generation. Some of them want the advice, some of them don't want the advice, but it's really about trying to help them. And so I love doing that. My wife does some things on the side, but for me, it's helping those next generation of kids up.
I love this. What boundary has become essential to your sustainability?
Oh, my boundaries. You know, I'm one of those people that I will take risk. Obviously, starting companies is taking a risk.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. But I also know that I can't, and I can't do all the fun things that I would like to do. I've started a number of companies, and I've got to be very cognizant of that risk. I don't want to blow all the available funding that I have or activities. I always look at it is that somebody else's dollars and cents coming in. I need to make sure that our organization is structured properly, that we've got the right things in place. And then from a personal standpoint, I always look at it, what would God say to me if he looked down at me right now, or if one of my relatives looked down at me, or my mother who passed away a couple of years ago looked down and said, that's not necessarily the smartest thing that you should be doing, Chris. I don't do drugs. I don't philander. I do like my whiskeys and my wines, but outside of that, I don't take those risks in life because we're in the CEO level. When you are looked upon and you're the person downing 6 cocktails and you're walking around and you're being goofy and stuff, I can be goofy without that kind of stuff. And I don't get in vehicles and drive those types of risks in my life. And then financially, I don't go too crazy. I do like collecting art and sports memorabilia and cards. But other than that, I don't go off the wagon and do crazy penny stocks and stuff like that. So I try to tell people, be careful with what you have and spend it a lot what you are given.
Amazing. Wonderful words of wisdom today. Have you ever said no to growth because it wasn't aligned?
Yes. Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, when I first started the organization at Approyo, there was an opportunity for us to do some work with IBM. Phenomenal company, some great partners, and they were looking for us to do some things because of our management and services. And we went through the process. Well, they wanted to integrate their tools and our tools, and it just didn't make sense because they were this big monolithic company and the tools were big and monolithic. And to be able to get it into it and as much as I saw this revenue possibility or this partnership, hey, we're partners with IBM, this would be great. It just didn't make sense from both a technical standpoint and from our company standpoint. We're so much smaller than an IBM. It would have just encompassed all of us. And it just did not make sense for us to make that decision. So we said no. Still work and do things every once in a while they'll call. But at the end of the day, I think we made the right decision on that.
It's good. How do you balance being a leader and still being a learner?
Oh, that's a great question because I try to learn every single day. And I think leaders need to know that and do that. When I get up in the morning, I have literally in my inbox news articles. I have everything from things that I want to do to keep my brain fresh. I read a lot. Well, actually, I audible books a lot, and everything from business to I just literally listened to the Kenny Rogers story autobiography, and unfortunately, it's bad. I love to learn through audio. So I'm constantly listening and I'm constantly bringing in it. I'm constantly learning new AI. I just learned the entire anti-gravity solution from Google. And now they've got some new things with their new Canvas and Flow that I'm learning. And so every day for me, when I get up, I have a cup of coffee with my lovely bride. I then read through my emails with the knowledge repositories that I get from them. And then I pick a tool and I play on that for about a half an hour to an hour. And so by the time 6, 7 o'clock comes around, I'm ready for my day and go forward from there.
Yeah.
Leaders need to learn something new continuously.
I know I want to learn every day, Chris. In fact, I think when I take my last breath, I'll say, just a moment, I've got a question. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. So tell me, what's the boldest vision for Chris Carter coming up here soon?
Oh, my boldest vision is you are going to see, I'm doing some things with, it's funny. I literally have taken the last 8 months to build out some AI-based security profiling and AI-based security score sets and homomorphic encryption. And I just met with a group of VCs and PEs here in Vegas this weekend, and they had no idea that this was even something to be able to look at. And they've given me some really cool valuations of what I've done. I only used Google Chrome, Google Anti-Gravity, Google Flow, Google Canva, Notebook LM from Google, Google Gemini, all the Google tools. And I literally took all of those to be able to build this tool set about security and AI-based flexibility and using some homomorphic encryption with it. And showing it to people makes my eyes shine, and it's so cool and it's so needed, because there are people out there still sending 22 tabbed Excel spreadsheets up into ChatGPT or up into Gemini or wherever, sending emails with security numbers and stuff, that it's like, okay, guys and gals, this can be stopped very quickly, very easily. Look at what it's doing. And so for me, that's the big whiz bang thing that I've been working on, that I think is just going to
Yeah.
blow the
I
socks off people.
I love this, Chris. I think one of the things we really need to look at in this AI revolution is going to be security and how we protect ourselves. And it's not the big bad wolf that's coming as much as how are we smarter to make sure on a
Yeah.
personal level things are secure, and if we have companies, how that's secure. And there's just a new level of security that comes with every technology. And I'm anxious for you and other people to create what I need to ensure I have protected myself. Tell me this. What does renewal look like for Chris beyond the typical rest and a day off? How does Chris renew
Oh,
himself?
so I renew myself in a couple of different ways. I love to do audiobooks, so I will gravitate towards an audiobook, and I will travel with my wife to go eat somewhere, go drink somewhere, go meet people. We love traveling to wineries, distilleries, restaurants, and she and I will just relax. I ask her during certain times, I don't want to talk about any business in any way, shape, or form. It's just about you and I and the family and activities and what we're doing. We will, like, we're here in Las Vegas. My wife and my youngest daughter are flying in for the Luke Combs concert. She graduated from college. She deserved a treat. This was what she picked. We are going to do nothing but enjoy this time with
Uh,
our daughter. We love, 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 love our daughters. They are, I am wrapped around their pinky fingers. So I literally am doing nothing for Friday, Saturday, Sunday of spending my time with them and focusing on my
yeah,
daughter and my wife. And that to me renews me. It brings back, because it's all about love. And at the
yeah,
end of the day, I love those girls with all my heart and my wife.
yeah.
So it's all about the renewal of those 3 days. And then I'll go back to it on Monday.
I bet they love you too, Chris.
They
Tell
tell me
me
they do,
this.
which is awesome.
I'm sure they do. So, what does legacy mean to you at this point in your life?
I've been thinking about that a bit. And well, a few years ago, I broke my neck, and I've got some carbon fiber and titanium discs and plates and screws in my neck. And when things like that happen and you can't move, and you're really starting to evaluate what your life is or was, and now that I'm a little much more healthier than I was, and my legacy, I hope that my legacy is first my two daughters, that I know that I have raised them to be good people in this world, not just good women, but good people in this world, with strong backbones and courage and capabilities. But I also want organizations and people that I've worked with to say, you know what? That guy was trustworthy. I cared about him. He cared about us. We know that we were going to get. And then at the end of the day, I hope the world sees me as somebody who really tried to help the world, no matter if it's with the things we do at church or with our foundations or the different businesses that we've been involved with. I really hope that they see that I wasn't just some schmuck out there that was trying to get a dollar off of anybody or everybody, but I was trying to give back and trying to help and help them at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I can only hope that that's what I've left them with.
I love this. So, if a very, very young Chris was watching this podcast, what would you tell him?
First thing that I would say to him is, hey, Chris, please make sure that you find the perfect woman for you to grow old with. And I did that. Second of all, I would tell him it is not about dollars and cents. It is about who you work with, why you work with them, what you're doing, what you're presenting, and where you're going out there. And he's probably going to go, really? Don't you want to be a millionaire, billionaire, blah, blah, blah. No, those things all come to you as you work hard and as you help individuals as you grow forward. And then finally, just remember to care. Empathy and care goes a long way. No matter what you're doing, how you're doing it, think about it from the other person's seat as well. You know,
Yeah.
when you're out here in the world and you see some of the good, bad, and other, think about those individuals and what you can do to help and be a part of that. Have some empathy.
Yeah. Love this. So if you could leave our listeners with one invitation today, what would it be?
Well, first, find me on LinkedIn so you and I can have a coffee or a bourbon anywhere in the world. I love to meet people. As a matter of fact, I'm meeting somebody that I was on another podcast. They reached out and said, "Hey, I'm in Las Vegas. You made this recommendation." I love to meet people all across the globe. But then my last recommendation would be what I spoke about a moment ago. If you're leading a company or if you're in a company and you're growing and you're learning as a true human as you should be, have some empathy for the people around you. Don't be that guy or gal in the office that gossips about anything. You have not worn the shoes of that person you're talking about. Have some empathy. If you see that somebody's having problems or either emotionally or physically, or help them, reach your hand out to help. And then if once you get up that ladder of success, reach your hand down that ladder of success and help pull others up. It makes this world so much better to be able to do those things.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Ah, Chris Carter, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today. Chris Carter, the chairman and CEO of Approyo. It was a delight to have you with us, Chris.
Tom, it is truly an honor. You're a great man. Thank you for all you've done in this world.
Absolutely. And to my guests, this is Tom Lenoble, and I'll see you next time.